The mirror! She shouted, then blushed and lowered her voice. The mirror is broken, May whispered, pointing at it. And with it goes any outboy of finding my grandmother. She dropped her head into her hands and stared at the floor. But not only that, we were going to do something magical, Jack. We were going to rescue Snow White. How amazing is that? I mean, my grandmother is Snow White. I still can't wrap my head around that. But don't worry, real life won't let me go on too long like this without crashing down. And now, here we are, waiting for the ambulance to pick up one of our friends. She gritted her teeth, then smacked her hand against the wall hard enough to turn her palm red. Jack thought about asking when an ambulance was, but decided to keep his questions to himself. Instead, he took the princess's hands in his. Princess May, he said, listen to me. She glared at him for a second, then sighed deeply, the anger draining from her face. These are challenges, Jack told her. That's it. We are going to win. You know why? Because it doesn't matter if you're in a fairy tale or here in real life, doing the right thing still counts for something. We're going to win because we're good, decent people trying to accomplish something noble. She flashed her half-smile at him. You didn't have to get all melodramatic there, she said, then bumped him with her shoulder. He grinned. Just following your example, Your Highness. She gave him an indignant look. I was not being melodramatic. Oh, of course not. I wasn't. Did you listen to yourself? You were half a second away from saying we're the villains in our story. May stuck out her tongue. Maybe not me, but I've got my suspicions about you. He laughed out loud. I'm pretty sure there's not a villain out there who would put up with you for this long. This time she pushed him hard, and he fell to the ground, still laughing. May rolled her eyes, then leaned over and offered him her hand to pull him up. But Jack grabbed her and yanked her down to the floor next to him. Then Jack sprang to his feet and put his hands on his hips, striking the classic hero pose. No princess is match for Sir Jack, he said majestically. Sir Jack, May said from the floor, raising an eyebrow. He nodded toward his back. I've got a sword, don't I? She laughed. If that's all it takes, I'm going to be Sir May in about 2 seconds. She jumped up to her feet and launched herself at him. Jack backpedaled away from her, but May was too quick. She threw both her arms around him and grabbed for the sword, even as he backed away, trying to keep her from getting it. May moved with him though, so Jack kicked himself backward, laughing the entire time. He kept moving backward until he bumped into the cottage wall, May's momentum pushing her right into him. It took him all of a second to realize that she had her arms around him. He had his arms around her, and their faces were only inches apart. Suddenly, Jack had no clue what to do. What had just happened? The wolf was hurt, and they were playing around. Plus, May was a princess, and Jack hated royalty, didn't he? Okay, maybe right now he had a hard time remembering why, but still. May seemed as surprised as he was to find herself in this position. Still, she recovered quickly and started to say something, but stopped and looked down toward his mouth. She looked back up at him, and her eyes softened. A low growl from the bed interrupted whatever May's eyes were about to say. If you're not too busy, the wolf said. May instantly blushed and jumped backward, slamming Jack hard against the wall. As Jack slid down to the floor, grunting in pain, she literally leapt to the wolf's side. Yes, May shouted. We're here. We're not doing anything. Just waiting for a doctor, a healer, whatever. What can we do? Want some water? Something to eat? Are you alright? She stopped to take a breath, giving the wolf a chance to jump in. No, he growled. I need nothing. I will be fine. I heal quickly. Just tell me what happened. Jack pushed himself to his feet and walked over to the bed. Not to disagree, but it doesn't really look like you'll be fine, he told the wolf. You're barely able to move, and you've lost a lot of blood, but I think we've got it covered. Philip went to get a healer. The animal picked up his head to stare at them. Leaving you to... here to do what? Watch over me? He started to chuckle, but the laughter turned into a coughing fit. Calm down, May said, pushing the wolf's head back down onto the bed. We're here to take care of you, and we will. We'll make sure nothing happens to you until the doctor gets here. Doctor? Jack said. You keep saying that. What's up? You really gotta do that every time, May interrupted without looking at him. I must know now, the wolf said, his eyes dark with pain, but also filled with determination. Tell me what the girl did. Where is the Red Hood? What happened to the mirror? The Red Hood escaped, Jack said. The huntsman, this guy who's been chasing us down, he threw you in here and then helped her get away. What? The wolf shouted, then struggled to push himself up, but quickly fell back to the bed and into another coughing fit. That's not all either, May said in a voice tinged with anger. She broke the mirror. She pointed at the wall. More than it already was, I mean. The wolf sat up enough to see what she was pointing at, then dropped back to the bed with a sigh. Clearly you do not take after your grandmother, princess. She never would have let this happen. May's mouth dropped open, the wolf's comment leaving her at a loss for words. Jack found himself filling in for her, though far more passionately than he would have thought. May did everything he could, Jack shouted. We all did. Maybe if we hadn't been surprised by the huntsman, we'd have the Red Hood and the mirror right now. The wolf's paw flew up and grabbed Jack's head, then yanked it down to within an inch of the animal's teeth. And what, pray tell, are you implying? The wolf growled softly. I'm implying, Jack said, ignoring the animal's heavy breathing, that you were supposed to be watching our backs. The wolf glared at him for a moment, then released him. You speak the truth, he said, lying back down onto the bed, looking paler than ever. I failed. I was not aware of the huntsman's approach. I sought to hide my presence from the Red Hood, cloaked as a man. But in man form, I cannot use as many of my senses I can as a wolf. I was taken unawares. I reverted to my regular form when I lost conscious control over my aspect. The wolf winced, though in pain or just at the memory of his failure, Jack couldn't tell. Well, it's not really your fault either, Jack said, much more eager to forgive now that the wolf had apologized. None of us knew he was there, and we're all dealing with it now. So just get some rest, and try not to move until the healer gets here. May nodded in agreement, and the wolf settled back into the soft bed, closing his eyes. They let him rest for a minute, then moved back to the wall. As Jack slid down the wall to the floor, a little laugh escaped the wolf's lips. One more thing, he growled. I hardly care what you do, but try not to wake me with your courting rituals again. Jack's face turned bright red as he slipped and fell the rest of the way to the floor.